It started with a punch not to the face, but to the heart. He walked in like he owned the place, and maybe he did. Liam always had that kind of presence, magnetic, reckless, dangerous in all the ways that make you want to stay. I was halfway through another failed gig, pretending my dreams weren't slipping away, when he came into my life like a storm wearing expensive shoes. "Ethan Collins, right?" he said, his voice low, rough, like gravel soaked in honey. "You're the guy who thinks he doesn't belong here." And just like that, he saw through me. I hated him for it. And maybe that's how it all began. We met in a downtown club, one of those places where ambition and desperation mix like whiskey and sweat. I was a struggling music producer, living off cheap takeout and caffeine, chasing the American dream with the kind of stubbornness that looks a lot like stupidity. Liam was the heir to a real estate empire, the golden boy of New York society, and everything I swore I'd never be. But there was something in his smile that night, something wild and lonely that made me look twice. He wasn't just another rich guy playing alpha. He was hiding something behind that perfect control. The first time we talked, it felt like we were dancing with knives. "You think you're better than me because you struggle?" he asked. "No," I said, smirking. "I think I'm better because I don't fake it." For a second, he stared at me, like he wanted to argue, but then he smiled. And that smile was the beginning of my undoing. Days turned into nights filled with reckless energy. Liam started showing up everywhere I went: the studio, the coffee shop, even the roof of my crappy apartment building. He never said he liked me. He didn't have to. The way his gaze lingered was enough. Sometimes he'd stand too close, brushing past me with that infuriating confidence. Other times he'd pull away, distant, cold like a king guarding his throne. It drove me insane. One night, after a long recording session, he appeared at the studio door with 2 beers and a smirk. "Thought you could use a break," he said. I wanted to tell him to leave. I wanted to tell him to stay. Instead, I said, "You always show up when I'm trying to forget you." He laughed softly. "And do you?" I didn't answer, because the truth was no, I couldn't. There's a certain kind of chaos that only love can bring, the kind that pulls you in and tears you apart at the same time. That was Liam. He made me feel alive, wanted, seen, and then he'd disappear behind walls I couldn't break. The more I tried to understand him, the more he slipped away. People started talking. Whispers turned to gossip. The alpha and the nobody, they called us. I tried not to care, but in a city that feeds on image, being with him was like painting a target on my back. Still, I kept going back to him. Because when Liam touched me, the world stopped making sense, and for once, I didn't care. But love isn't easy when one of you has everything to lose. One evening, he invited me to a charity gala. It was his world: tuxedos, champagne, polite smiles that cut deeper than knives. I felt out of place from the moment I walked in. And yet, when he looked at me across the room, I forgot to breathe. He walked over, his hand brushing mine, a silent promise in his touch. But then his father appeared. "Liam," the man said coldly, eyes flicking to me like I was dirt on a diamond shoe. "We'll discuss your choices later." Liam's jaw tightened. He didn't say a word. He just pulled me away, his hand trembling slightly. That was the first time I realized how much power fear held over him. We ended up on the rooftop where he finally let the walls crack. "I've built my life on control," he said quietly. "But when I'm with you, I lose it all. And it scares the hell out of me." His voice broke. So did I. I stepped closer, close enough to feel the warmth of his breath. "Then let's be scared together." For the first time, he didn't pull away. But love born in chaos never stays quiet for long. The next morning, the tabloids had our pictures. Headlines screaming about scandal, betrayal, forbidden love. His company's stock dropped. His family called it a phase. And me? I lost my job. It should have been the end. But sometimes, endings are just the universe's way of asking if you're brave enough to start again. Liam came to my apartment that night, drenched from the rain. His hair was a mess, his eyes red. "They want me to deny everything," he said, voice trembling. "To say you meant nothing." I swallowed hard. "Then do it." "Don't," he said sharply, stepping closer. Don't make this harder. I met his gaze. It's not supposed to be easy. He laughed bitterly. You think love's worth losing everything? Yes, I whispered. If it's you. And for a long, aching moment, neither of us moved. The city outside was alive. Rain, sirens, the heartbeat of a world that didn't care about two men fighting for something real. But I cared. And so did he. The night Liam showed up drenched in rain was the night everything broke and began again. He stood there in my doorway, chest heaving, the city's storm pouring down his face like penance. I could see it in his eyes, the boy beneath the alpha, trembling, cornered by the weight of everyone's expectations. Come in, I said quietly. He did. The silence between us was deafening. He looked around my tiny apartment, cracked walls, old records, the smell of burnt coffee and lost hope. Then he looked at me, and something in him softened. You were right, he said finally. About what? That I've been pretending, living for everyone but myself. He swallowed hard. I told my father I wouldn't deny you. My breath caught. And what did he say? That I'm no longer his son. The words hung in the air like broken glass. For a second, I didn't know what to say. The pain in his voice wasn't just defiance, it was grief. The kind that comes when you realize freedom costs more than you ever imagined. I stepped closer. You didn't have to do that for me. I didn't, he said, meeting my eyes. I did it for me. And in that moment, I knew no matter what came next, I couldn't walk away. The next few weeks were brutal. The world didn't slow down to let us breathe. The tabloids kept feeding on the story. The alpha heirs fall from grace. Forbidden love in the city. Every headline felt like a knife twisting deeper. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters, old friends, strangers who wanted a story. Liam's family cut him off financially. He lost his penthouse, his car, his safety net. But when he showed up at my apartment with 2 duffel bags and a tired smile, I just laughed. You're seriously moving in here? Unless you plan on kicking me out. I raised a brow. You do realize my couch is smaller than your ego? He smirked. Guess we'll have to share. And just like that, the heaviness cracked open into laughter. We were broke, terrified, and completely out of our depth, but we were together. And for the first time, that felt like enough. At night, we'd sit on the rooftop, staring at the skyline. He'd rest his head on my shoulder, whispering plans that sounded like promises. I want to start over, he said once. Not as the alpha everyone expects, as just Liam. And what about me? I asked. He smiled. You? You're the only thing I'm sure about. I wanted to believe him, and for a while I did. But love, no matter how fierce, doesn't erase the scars of who we were before. A few months later, he got a job offer from a startup in San Francisco. A chance to rebuild his name on his own terms. He looked at me across the room, torn. I don't want to leave you, he said. Then don't. He hesitated. But what if I'm just running away again? I forced a smile. Then run toward something better. We both knew what that meant. He had to go. The night before his flight, we lay together on the couch, tangled limbs, silent tears, the world shrinking down to heartbeats and breath. When I come back, he whispered, I'll be the man you deserve. You already are, I whispered back. But when the sun rose, he was gone, leaving only a note. Don't stop chasing your dream. I'll find you when it's time. Time passed. Seasons shifted. The city changed. I threw myself into music again, into late nights and lonely mornings. Somehow, pain became fuel. Every beat, every lyric carried pieces of him, the laughter, the fights, the way he'd say my name like it meant something sacred. I got signed by an indie label. My first song, Wild Game, started to climb the charts. People said it was about ambition, but I knew the truth. It was about him. Every time I performed it, I wondered if he was listening. A year later, I got an invitation. A music festival in San Francisco. My first big live show. I almost said no. I didn't want ghosts chasing me across the coast. But something in me, stubborn, foolish, hopeful, said yes. The night of the show, the crowd was a blur of faces and lights. Halfway through my set, I started playing Wild Game. This one, I said into the mic, is for someone who taught me that love isn't about winning or losing, it's about daring to play it all. The lights dimmed. The first chords echoed. And then, in the sea of strangers, I saw him, Liam, standing near the stage, hands in his pockets, that same quiet fire in his eyes. For a second, the world froze. He looked different, older, freer, alive. When the song ended, he was already walking toward me. Backstage, I could barely breathe. "You came," I managed. He smiled. "Told you I'd find you when it's time." I laughed, shaking my head. "You always did like dramatic entrances." He stepped closer, voice soft. "And you always did make me believe in things I didn't think I could." There were no grand speeches, no cinematic music swelling in the background, just two people who had finally learned how to meet halfway. "I missed you," I said. "I missed home," he replied. "And that's you." We walked out to the pier that night, the ocean wind wrapping around us like an old friend. He told me about his year, the long nights, the rebuilding, the quiet victories. I told him about mine, the songs, the fears, the loneliness that never really went away. And in the middle of it all, we just laughed. The world felt small again, just us and the endless horizon. He took my hand. "You know, I used to think being an alpha meant being in control. Now I think it means being brave enough to love without control." I looked at him, my chest tightening. "Then I guess we both grew up." He smiled. "No. We just stopped pretending." As the sun rose, the city glowed in gold and pink the same way it had the night we first met. But everything was different now. He pulled me close, his forehead resting against mine. "I don't care where life takes us," he whispered. "I'm done running from what's real." I smiled through tears. "So am I." And there, with the ocean behind us and the world waking up around us, we kissed slow, sure, and finally free. It wasn't a perfect ending. It wasn't even an ending at all. It was something better, a beginning. Months later, we moved into a small apartment overlooking the bay. He worked at a design firm. I was touring, writing new songs. Our lives were messy, beautiful, loud, everything love should be. Sometimes, when I'd come home late, I'd find him asleep on the couch, his head resting on my notebook. I'd sit beside him, tracing the lines of his face, still amazed by how far we'd come. Because in the end, it wasn't the chaos that defined us. It was the choice to stay, to try, to love. And every time he smiled at me, I knew. I may have spent years chasing my dreams, but my heart had already found its home in him. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.